Hello and welcome to lesson 9 of our little intermediate programming with Scratch course. These 10 lessons, we've covered variables, we've covered lists. This one we're going to kind of have a little bit of fun. This is some ants and some crickets, and I'll kind of go through it. This is going to be a simple little project. Our next one's going to be a brain twister, and so we'll see how you deal with the 10th one, because that's going to deal with a pre-populated list, but it's a pretty detailed and I would consider a really tough exercise. But let's play with this one and then we'll get into 10. We'll get into 10 later. But this is going to be a fun one. And this is just going to be ants that are constantly facing the cricket. Let's just see what it does here. You see how I have my list. I created a list. Let's go over here to variables. And I went ahead and created a key, because we're going to use a key to actually walk through a list. And I'm going to show you how that works. And then I went ahead and created a list called words. And the words are going to be things this ant says. But let's just see what this does here. So let's play it here. Oops, now I'm starting with the space key. So I'm going to press my space key. See how these ants are constantly facing the cricket? The cricket, as he kind of randomly moves around, he's drawing every so often. And this ant's saying the words I pre-populated the list with. It says, I love crickets, they taste wonderful. Now, how I created this list was, let's go ahead and stop it here. Let's go back here. So I created my list and it made me one of these things over here, and it kind of looked like this. In fact, if I just wanted to say I love crickets, see how I have an empty list here? I click this plus, and I just pre-populate it with I. Here we go. Let's do it again. Kind of got to get love crickets. Let's just have him say that. Let's rank that up here. Now remember, we can toggle these lists on and off. These are just so we can see them, and this is the key. But see how I can toggle that off? And now we don't see the list at all. It's still there. We just don't see it. He'll still go through that. Here, let's press space. See, he's still going through his list. And the cricket's still running around. And see, he touched one of the ants. See how these ants are always facing the cricket? When this cricket touches one of the ants, he starts making the cricket sound. And he's only going to draw every so often. Let's go look at the blocks, though. So here's our cricket block. And here's what he's doing. When the space is key, he's forever changing his X by a random -5 to 5. And a Y -5 to 5. If he hits the edge, he's bouncing. If he touches an ant, ant 1 or ant 2, see, ant 1 and ant 2, he's going up here to the top, 3 and 145. He's going to a new position on our grid, and he's playing his little cricket sound. And he does that if he touches either of the crickets. So we've got our sounds, and sounds is right here. Playing crickets, and I added a sound by doing sounds, and then I imported. And you also, in your inventory, not just have a lot of neat little sprites, you have a lot of neat little sounds, and you have animal sounds, effects, electronics, humans, instruments. So kind of tinker with that, play with it a little bit. So that's our little cricket. This ant is just doing one real simple thing. He's just constantly facing the cricket. And I got that. Remember the point towards? We were doing variables. We were pointing towards mouse. Well, here we're just going to be pointing towards another sprite. So that's how he's constantly facing his cricket. And this ant's doing the same thing. He's always facing the cricket. But he's also, when the space is pressed, we're looking at our variable here. It's setting the key to 1. And so this is kind of a counter. We're doing a little counter with this variable. And then we're repeating the number of times the length of our list. And remember, it's only going to do this 3 times. Remember in our last exercise where we said that's always going to give us the number of the elements in our list? And there are only 3 elements, so this little reporter block is giving us the number of elements for the list words. And this is going to say an item. It's going to say the current item in our counter, which is 1 of words. And then see how it's changing key by 1. So then it's going to go up to 2, and it's going to say our second element. Then it's going to go up to 3. This is kind of a dynamic little way to walk through a list. And it's going to do this no matter how many items are in this list. So see how now it's stopping when it gets to crickets. But if I said they, stretch this out here, taste, wonderful. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop, press the space key. It's going to dynamically know, oh, okay, I have 6 of these now. And it's going to go through all 6 of them. Crickets. See, then it went to 4. They. Taste. Wonderful. So that's how it's going through that. And then it's waiting. It's waiting 5 seconds at the end. And then since it's doing this forever loop, it's going back through it. And it's setting the key to 1, and it's going to the first element. And it's doing it again. So that's kind of how you'll walk through a list, a predefined list, using a counter. So we got a real simple counter. And I just called our counter key. I could have called it counter also, and I don't have that. See, it's at 1, at 2, 3, 4. So that's our real simple little project. So go ahead and create this. We're going to move on to our 10th lesson here, and it's going to be a pretty difficult one. And we'll get into that one here. It's going to be just one lesson. This is going to kind of be a challenge. So we'll see how good you guys can be at this. But let's do this little fun project. Let's upload it to Scratch, and then you'll get your Scriptastic link and paste it into a blog post again for this. And then share those with everyone else in the class. We're going to move on to lesson 10, and this one will be a brain twister, and we'll see how good you guys are.